What's up, guys? Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of Eat, Train, Prosper. Today, Bryan and I are going to talk about a little bit, I don't want to call it a phenomenon, but a misnomer potentially, something that Bryan and I will experience on vacation or whenever we take trips that is kind of the complete opposite of what most people experience. And that is around not gaining weight, or for Bryan and myself, actually losing weight whenever we travel or take vacations. We're going to walk through some of just like the lifestyle principles that help facilitate that and then remove that fear around whatever you may potentially make that vacation mean in terms of your nutrition, training goals, etc. But before we jump into this, Bryan, tell me about your last week.
Last week, we just dropped the episode about the Follow My Program. So the reception has been good. I'm pretty happy so far. I hope that some people will come journey with me and join up. But so far, got some good feedback on that, which is cool. People are excited about it. We are about to get hit by another snowstorm here, and the timing is unfortunate because I have a flight out at 7:58 a.m. on Thursday morning to go to Mexico with the bros. And this snowstorm is supposed to start in like 2 hours, so basically noon on Tuesday. And then it's supposed to go for like 36 to 48 hours, like nonstop snow. Which is crazy because the prediction is like 8 to 10 inches, which seems like if it's going to snow for 2 straight days, you would end up with a little bit more than that. But that's what they're saying, and we're already getting notifications like, check your flight, maybe change your flight, like all this stuff. So who knows if I'm going to Mexico? But Cass actually just hit me up and asked if I wanted to come and shadow for the practical this weekend. So at least if I don't go to Mexico, I can potentially go hang at N1, and that'll be awesome as well. So good stuff on that end. What else? Training. I was trying to cram 4 sessions in this week before I go to Mexico. I was trying to train Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and basically get like 2 lower sessions and 2 upper body sessions in. But my life said no yesterday, so I did my hamstrings in the morning, and I was going to come back and do upper body stuff in the evening. Didn't end up doing the upper body, so just hit that before we podcasted today. And then tomorrow I'll do quads with abs and calves, and then basically not have a plan going into vacation, assuming I go. And the next day up in my program is full upper body, which I feel like is probably the easiest one to do on vacation, whether it's like dumbbells up to 50 pounds or, a cable, like a functional trainer up to 100 pounds per stack or something like that. Like I should be able to at least do some upper body stuff. Worst case scenario, push-ups and pull-ups, and boom, upper body day. So I felt like having an upper body day on vacation is much better than being like, okay, I need to find like a hack squat and like I'm in Mexico and who the fuck knows what they have type thing. So I think all in all, it worked out super well. I really love that my program is malleable in the sense that I can take that hamstring and upper body day and just be like, yo, I'm doing hamstrings today and I'm doing upper body tomorrow. And that is what it is. So feeling good about all of this stuff. And I guess we'll just see what happens with my travel this weekend. How about you?
So we move tomorrow, which I'm excited about
Hell
because
yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie, I've bitched on the podcast around this Airbnb that we're in here in Scottsdale in the complex. And, in apologies to the listeners over the past like 6 or 8 episodes with like the dogs barking in the background, like I literally cannot control it. Believe me, I have tried, and if I'm being honest, it bothers me. I have like a quality complex. I like things that like I do to be like really, really high quality. And I feel like when that's happening, it's just like, I don't know, it's annoying. Like I know if I'm listening to podcasts and there's like dogs barking and shit, like it annoys me. So it really annoys me when I'm the one doing it. But I can't help it here. I just can't. So I'm super excited for the move, just for some quiet, hopefully. I was going to say I'm praying, but like I'm not. I'm just really hoping that there's just a little bit more quiet. So that's tomorrow. I'm really, really excited about it. I do like the change, especially like here when I haven't liked this Airbnb. So that I'm pumped about. I have started training in the mornings.
Nice.
Not crazy morning. Like I didn't bust my ass to build this business and stuff to get up and go to the gym at 5 a.m. type of thing, right? Like I'm not doing that, but like not like 9 a.m. Like my goal is to be like like hitting my first sets at like 9 a.m. and then I'm like back home by, like just after 10 or something like that. So I will go today after the podcast. Kind of following up with like what I talked about last week with just like peeling back the layers of my life to the bare bones, like realizing like I need to pay myself first of sorts. And that's with like after a training session, like I just feel great. My energy levels are good. My mood is elevated, all of these things. And then I want to carry that into my day, as opposed to like, what was happening before is like I would plan to go to the gym at like noon or 1, and then that would get pushed to like 4, 5, 6, 7. And now that's beginning of the year, the gym is fucking packed. And of course, like here's the thing. I do not love that the gym is packed. And that is from a purely selfish reason. But I love that people are in there trying to better themselves. So it's like, I obviously justify it, but I like an empty gym. So fortunately where we are here, the gym is a lot of college students. They're not there at 10 a.m. You know what I mean? Type of deal. So I just love that. And then it really helps my work day because my energy levels are better. My mood is elevated and all of these things. So just by kind of swapping my day, it allows, like, I know by putting this first, it will positively influence the rest of my day, as opposed to like if I put it at the end, parts of my day can negatively influence my like proclivity to go to the gym type of thing and push it. So there's that. And then go ahead.
Yeah. So I think you're going to really like it. I think like I've been doing the 8 a.m. workout where I basically like I roll into the gym casually at 8. I'm like updating Instagram and, drinking my protein or whatever. And then my first set is like between 8:30 and 9. And by like 10:30, I'm out. And I feel like it's very invigorating for the day. Like you kind of alluded to it. It really sets your mind, clears you up. And you can even use the gym time as like time to think about what you're going to execute that day and really kind of get good focus on it. So I think you're going to really dig it. And I like that you made that change.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. And then it gives me like a big, like I'll really hit my stride of work at like 10:30, but then I have like 10:30 to like 7, 8 p.m. Let's say 8 realistically. And then slowly I'll try and work that back to like work. And I am excited about that.
Super cool.
Yeah. And then the last update for me, I have settled into a new training split that I wanted to test. And it is an uncommon split. And it is a 8-session cycle that I will probably perform over 11 days. And I have things split up as chest, rear delts, and abs, back and lateral delts. The chest day also has anterior delts. And then a quad, abs, and triceps, hamstring, biceps, and calves. And it's different, but I enjoy it. It's different in the fact that like I can really just focus on like I have like these 2 chest exercises. I'm going to perform them like really, really well. And then I'm also not half-assing my tricep and bicep work because I have them like separated off. So it has been cool. I'm finished. I have like I have like 2 more sessions. So like session 7 and 8 that I need to like test. And then I'm going to get into the swing of things of like having everything in place. But I really, really like it so far. And I've been like with anything I do, I jump in a little bit too hard and I've been super fucking sore.
So I love that you did this, of course. Like I'm a huge fan of setting training splits up that way. And it's very like individual to you, right? It's exactly what you need with the frequency that you need so that it works out. So it's not like we're creating this split to try to be like contrarian just to do it and be like, fuck it, we don't need a normal split, Mm-hmm. So anyway, I love that. And I think that's super cool. And I had a question about whether, because you listed 4 workouts and said it was 8 sessions. So what changes in the second rotation through?
Exercise selection.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just to build in a little bit more variation. Yeah. And then this is something that I will offer to my clientele who want a little bit more variation. Like, to be completely honest, if I had it my way, I would repeat after the 4 sessions because I'm just going to pick my favorites, but I'm really exploring a little bit more of exercise variation just to get out of my own comfort zone around it, because I'm like, okay, we have a Like for example, let's talk quads, right? Because that's what we talk about the most. I can have like in this gym, right? I can have there's a belt squat, there's a pit shark. We have like a Smith machine barbell, or sorry, like a Smith machine back squat you can do with the heel elevated wedge. They have the prime wedges there. I did that. That's great. We have a pendulum. We have like a Cybex squat press, right? That lever one that I found I like really well after I actually tried to use it instead of just bitching about it and hating it for no reason. And then a Arsenal hack squat. So those are like 5 really good options. Normally I'm going to be like, I'm just going to do the fucking pendulum twice per week. I'm going to do it in like a 6 to 8 and then like a 10 to 12 rep range, right? And we can just push that. But just exploring variation for my own kind of like personal growth, really, and being able to program from outside my comfort zone, and realizing that that's really my main target there, is to expand my own kind of personal knowledge and not, hey, this tool works, so I'm just gonna like only use this one tool. And it's been fun, and I'm gonna do about 70% lengthened overload volume to 30. And I'm really, really excited about it.
Very cool. I also love that you are splitting up quads and hams, because that's another thing that I have done, in the last 6 to 8 months, and been like a huge fan of the way it just allows you to put much more intensity and focus into that area. And it's much easier after a hard quad or ham to come back and do some upper body than it is to have to do the other part of your legs. So, big fan of that too.
And that's what I'm going to test this week, is the order, whether I want to put the back day in between the quad and the ham day or not.
Very cool.
This is admittedly my first time like really giving it a true effort, splitting them. And like you said, the reasoning is because like they're both such big muscle groups. And let's face it, anytime you're hitting the quads, you're going to be hitting some glute. And then any kind of hip hinge on the hams, you're going to be hitting some glute too. Yep. And when you do them all at once, like it's just like kind of CNS overloading. And like, I mean, I'll make myself sick on those leg days just because it's a lot, it's a lot on your system to really push yourself to that like 1 RIR and these sorts of things. And then just by splitting that, it like I do like, my, let's say like 6 to 8 hard sets on my hamstrings. And I'm like, well, there's no quads now, which is, I'm going to go do some triceps now, which is super fucking chill, and then hit like 3 sets of calves and go home. Yeah. So it's like my hard work is done. Now I can do some triceps, which is super chill, as opposed to like, oh, I just took, RDLs to like 2 RIR and they're all shaky and stuff like that. Now I need to go on the fucking leg press.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've really been thoroughly enjoying it so far.
Sweet. Yeah, one thing I did notice in that happened in my program is I had a rear foot elevated split squat on my quad day, but it was making my ass so sore that I couldn't do my hamstring day. So I had to take out the single leg split squat, and I ended up putting in a sissy squat to get that like lengthened rec fem, which is what I was going for with that movement. To specifically take the glute out of it. So that's like one little kind of nuance thing that if people are thinking about, designing a program with that in mind, like that's something I made a mistake of in the beginning.
Yeah, for me, and this is something that I've moved to, so like the rear foot elevated split squat, the Bulgarian split squat, it is a fantastic movement that I've loved for a really long time. However, if I'm being really brutally honest with myself, when I perform it, it is overwhelmingly hip and glute dominant based on, my biggest thought is the moment arm, because when I'm doing it like that dumbbell it's basically right outside my knee is where I'm holding it. So that moment arm at the hip is so much greater. And I'll do everything I can to like try and stay upright when I do it, I really drive the knee over the toe, but every time after that, my ass is fucking smoked and my quads are like a little bit, fatigued. So it's just something that like, if you are, using that for quad movement, you like you said, you have to pay attention to what it's doing for the glute and stuff like that, because I've found the exact same.
Yep. But overall, super cool, and really excited to follow along with this new adventure of yours. Super cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Ready to jump into today's topic?
Yeah, man.
So this is something that I thought was really, really interesting that I wanted to talk about, because you came from, where did you just come from? Cancun?
Yeah, Mexico. Yep.
Yeah, so you're in Cancun, Mexico, came back, and your weight was down, right? And then kind of very coincidentally, around that same time, I was super. I mean, I'm not going to say I was super sick. I was sick, and I lost a considerable amount of weight, which I'm still trying to claw back. And we kind of joked about like every time I take a trip or go on vacation, like I lose weight as well, and that is very uncommon for a majority of people. A lot of people will have fears around taking a trip, their macros, etc., because they don't want to like sabotage. I'm using sabotage in like air quotes here, all the progress they've made. And what I wanted to talk about and what I truly think it comes down to is what you use vacation for. And if you go on vacation to just like binge drink and eat a bunch of like, you know, really high caloric meals, like there's no real way around that because of the decisions you're making. But if you treat vacation as like a, what I like to use it for is just like a rest and de-stress period or a life enjoyment period, and still practice some of those things you enjoy. And for a part of like the my coaching system is to eat a higher frequency of meals, a high volume of meals, a high maintenance calorie. When you go on vacation or take a trip, your meal frequency will reduce just through pure convenience. And it's common that a lot of my clientele will come back underweight as well. So I just wanted to kind of explore these a little bit, explain them, break them down, so that the listeners can, you know, potentially test and see if this is a methodology they would like to use for their vacation, so that they can kind of remove that fear of, you know, sabotaging progress just because you're taking a vacation with your family or something.
Yeah, totally. I think the point you brought up about the type of vacation you go on is super relevant, because if you're going on a cruise, it's almost impossible not to be relatively sedentary. And so even when they dock and let you off the boat, it's like, sure, you have a few hours where you can go like walk around and explore, and that's great and all, but you really are like stuck on this boat. Plus there's food available all the time. And the point you made about food frequency is also probably for me one of the biggest contributors to weight loss, because when there's food around, I tend to eat much more often, especially because I don't eat until later in the day usually. Those afternoon hours are filled with a lot of grazing generally. And when I go on vacation, I really am like at the place we were staying at in Cancun, it was, lunch was what, 11 to 1:30, and then the place is shut down until 3:30 or 4 when they open for dinner. So you really didn't have as many opportunities to eat. So even at a moment where I would be likely to walk into the kitchen, open the fridge and be like, oh, food, like I could have that fleeting moment of like, I would eat food if it was available right now, but then that moment passes because it's not like right there in front of me, you know? So maybe I have a protein bar. So I grab one out of my bag and I eat a protein bar, but that's way different than eating like a full meal or something along those lines. So super good points.
Yeah, and the cruise was a really good point, because I didn't consider that. And yes, I could. I've never been on a real cruise actually, so I could never even. I just don't have experience with that, so it would never even would have crossed my mind. But that is a really really good point. I would recommend like on vacation still keeping like your more or less set meal, like knowing how many meals you're going to eat and not just like playing it by ear type of deal. Because what you don't want is like, oh, well, I didn't eat breakfast today. And then, you know, we go to brunch, and brunch is like coffee and fruit. And then at 2 p.m., you're ravenous and you eat like 16 tacos or something like that. You know what I mean? So like not allowing yourself to be put in a position where your choices are limited by purely circumstance. So that sort of thing. And then the kind of shift that I wanted to kick us off with until we jump into some of the notes I have here is really thinking about it from a lifestyle standpoint. So for myself, for Bryan, this is like a lot of our habits is really rooted in our lifestyle, right? So when we go on vacation, like we talked about briefly, like I still want to go to the gym on vacation because it is something that I love to do. I love that feeling of getting a little bit sweaty, doing hard physical work, is an enjoyment to me. I think maybe not so much an actual enjoyment, but it's like I've made it mean something in my mind so that I enjoy it now because I know I'm contributing to my health, longevity, bone density, something of that sort, where I now reinforce that pattern as a positive.
Plus your goals.
And my goals. And I enjoy eating food that I know is beneficial for my body. So when I go on vacation, I'm not just like, oh, I'm just going to eat lasagna for like 4 nights because I know it's going to make me feel terrible. And I don't want to feel terrible. I really chase that feeling of feeling good. So I think when you put those at the forefront, it really helps shift what vacation might mean to you. Like if you go on vacation, you're like, I can't wait to just get blackout drunk on the beach, drinking, 600 calorie margaritas every day. I'm not saying that is wrong, but it may be there's a dichotomy between that decision and the type of lifestyle kind of decisions that I'm referring to at large. And in that, you may just have to choose which is most important to you and realize, hey, if you want to just binge drink 600 calorie margaritas on the beach for 2 or 3 days in a row, like your weight will likely be higher when you come back. And majority of that's going to be like inflammation and sort of things. But I just want to really kind of separate the two from a standpoint of how are you approaching it and what is the reason of this vacation?
Yeah, I think that for me, steps are always higher on vacation. It's almost like just something that happens without even trying. Just because you're walking from everywhere. Like I would not sign up for a vacation where I couldn't walk everywhere. Like if I was somewhere where it was like, okay, you're here and now you're gonna have to drive or take trains or like whatever it is to get all the places you want to go. That's not my type of vacation. Like I want to be able to walk consistently, maybe average 15 to 20, 25,000 steps even on vacation. And that's just, I enjoy that. Like I want to explore it, but I want to explore it in like a real way where I'm like part of it. And there's nothing more organic than like walking somewhere and being part of that experience.
I agree 100%. And what you said about like just exploring and like walking, that is my favorite part of going somewhere new. Just walking around and looking to the left and looking to the right, and everything is a new visual experience. I've never seen any of this before, so everything is brand new. I love that. And the walking on vacation, it's simple. It's the spending the time out in the sun. I would imagine for a majority of people, they will go vacation where it's warm and sunny. Not always, but that simple walking around, like people really, really underestimate the impact of just a simple high step count on your day. And when you're like, let's say you're staying in a hotel, right? Your walk just to get out to like the lobby of the hotel is usually a good amount. And you're doing that a few times, walking to and from like restaurants and stuff, walking to get coffee, like it really adds up. And that 15,000 steps per day becomes pretty simple to do when you're very relatively active, just going to look at some things.
Yeah, totally.
Another thing that we wanted to talk about, so we covered like the kind of training a little bit, and I would approach it from an enjoyment standpoint, right? So something that I would recommend and that I even do is back off my intensity of leg training. I've made this mistake before of like training legs too hard on vacation and then you're just buried because your food is down. You may not get as much, water and electrolytes in, and then it kind of like makes you feel crappy a little bit. So I would recommend pulling back on that and just training for the enjoyment if you want to. That is a big if, I would say. I think if you're on vacation and you have your kids and family with you, sneaking away for 60 to 90 minutes to train may be superfluous and only you can make that decision. But I would say that one is less important than the rest. The next one I wanted to talk about is just sleep. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so training. I would say I often will use it as like one of my frequency deloads. So instead of trying to train my normal 2 out of 3 days, it might be 2 out of 6 days or something like that. So I think the last vacation I went on, I trained twice, and they were like full hard sessions because the area had good equipment and stuff like that. So I went in and I did my session and I worked hard, and I feel like it, deposited pennies into the progression bank, which is fine. Like if you want to take that approach, that's cool. But I think the key was the fact that I extended that out over 6 days. There was tons of recovery in there. And I also never really felt super pressured to go to the gym. So like you kind of said about enjoyment, like it was always something I wanted to do to experience that work, right? That you said, which is so well said, that you just want to like do some work and feel like accomplished. And so those two sessions that I did over the 5 days or whatever were exactly the dose that I needed to enhance my vacation.
Enhance. That's the perfect word to use. That's a really, really good point. I would agree with that. However, I have had coincidentally enough in Mexico 2 vacations we did where I like walk into this little hole in the wall gym and I'm like, oh, well, there's a hack squat in there. I got to use it. And like the next thing I know, I'm like, fucking dying and taking things to like 1 RIR. And Jenny's like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, I don't know. It was just here. I wanted to use it. I couldn't help myself. And then I feel terrible for like the next 2 hours because I pushed myself way too hard.
Right.
But sometimes it's just like fun when you're in a gym and there's a new machine that you've like wanted to, and you're like, well, I mean, what are they? It's like a sign I'm here. I should probably use it type of thing. So I will sometimes falter on that.
Yeah,
but it's the feeling good thing.
Yeah. At the root of it, we're all like still that bro who like just got into weightlifting because you want to like rage against some weight and, tear shit apart. So yeah, I feel that.
Cool. The next point I want to talk about is sleeping good and how that will help you lower your stress, or a combination of other parts of the vacation with lowering stress. So I know with a lot of my clientele, especially like the dads, the business owners, it's not a struggle. It is a constant work in progress to get them to really buy into sleeping 8+ hours per night, sleeping 9+ hours per night. But vacation is one of those times where, especially if you're doing, point 3 we're going to talk about is like being out in the sun more, or spending time in the ocean or water, you're just drained earlier. And you might be like, fuck, it's 8:30, like we're ready for bed type of deal. And just getting to bed earlier and then sleeping more, like that will really, really benefit that outcome. Do you find, Bryan, on your trip, so like maybe not this boys trip that's coming up, but like a family vacation, that your sleep is improved in a longer duration?
Man, the context of kids is completely missing from your perspective. So
it is.
So here's the deal. Here's what happened on my vacation real quick. We have a son. He slept pretty well, actually. He's 4.5. He slept through the night. Really no big deal. My daughter, scared shitless of the pack and play and not being in her crib and just, unfamiliar surroundings, literally screams the entire night until we put her in our bed with us, at which point she just ends up rolling around and punching me in the face every hour throughout the night. And that is pretty much
pack and play.
No, but we tried and she screamed. I made Kim wait 45 minutes of her screaming and she didn't actually fall asleep. So we brought her back into the bed, but it was awful. And my sleep was the worst it's been during vacation. So it's very possible that my weight loss was like muscle loss, and I'm just like now getting that back finally. But no, I'm just that was tongue in cheek, but it really was an awful sleeping situation. And I think my boys trip will actually be a better sleeping situation. Despite the fact that there'll be alcohol in my body, it will be better sleep just because I won't be being punched in the face every hour.
That is a great standpoint to bring into it. The children thing, it can just T-bone. You don't know what you're gonna get, right?
Yeah.
So that one's a really, really funny point. But aside from like, let's say in a perfect world where the children were not there, maybe it's a Bryan and Kim vacation.
Yep.
I would imagine like
amazing.
The sleep quality goes up, the sleep duration goes up, and what I really wanted to kind of just bring home is like the importance of what that will do to your weight in an acute, 3-4 days. The next point I wanted to bring up is just like spending time out in the sun, right? Getting an acute increase in vitamin D levels and the ocean, right? What do they call it? The vitamin C, but SEA, kind of like a little bit of a pun there. It depending on who you talk to, right? And in different cultures, like there is people will truly believe like in the benefit of that. From my standpoint, I wouldn't say yes or no. I don't, and from anything I've seen, I'm not saying for this, I'm not saying against this. I haven't seen any like kind of studies on it. I'm not saying they're not out there. If any listener out there, if you do have them or you have seen them, please send them over. I would love to look into that. But just spending time, kind of like the spending time in nature thing, right? There's a lot of research on this that's beneficial for, acute cortisol levels, and then in tandem with the sleep. These are just net positives, especially in a shorter acute standpoint, that will positively benefit your physiology, and then reflecting weight number on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's something so tranquil and rejuvenating about just looking out at the ocean and seeing the water in and the water out. And it's weird, like with the perspective of being in Colorado with the mountains, which are very still, and you feel confidence in the fact that they're unmoving, and then the ocean is like the complete opposite, where it constantly moves. And I meet people that prefer one or the other, and I really enjoy both. But there is something about the fact that when you go to the ocean, if it's not something you see regularly, it has this super calming effect. And I completely feel that every time that I'm there. I just almost get like stopped by it, and I have to just like stop and kind of take a minute.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really like as much as I don't like the ocean, I don't want to say I don't like the ocean. I guess I should back up. We go to the ocean frequently, with where we will travel to and that sort of things. And I love like standing in like ankle deep water and just watching the ocean. I would say, to your point, I do prefer the mountains to the ocean. And here is why. I love looking at both of them. However, I love going in the mountains. I'm fucking terrified of the ocean. I feel like it's a completely different skill set that I just do not possess. And the unknown is so much more vast. And I think that's why I prefer the mountains.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
And then we talked about walking a lot. Like that will, especially if you're someone, especially coming from like a winter standpoint, right? We know it's harder to get steps in the winter, especially if you live somewhere where you have a true winter and it's cold. And, I have clients who are in like Iowa, in places where it's literally like -10 degrees outside. And I'm not going to be like, well, hit your fucking steps, bro. Like, are you committed or not? Like, no, that's very unrealistic. I'd be like, do not go outside. Please do not go outside. So just taking that and then going to 20,000 steps per day, like that will really, really add up. Anything else you want to add on that one that we talked about?
No, I think that's good. We killed the walking part. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last thing and the biggest thing to talk about is your approach to food. So we briefly talked about it a little bit earlier, but I wanted to like re-break it down, and I'll give you exactly what I recommend my clients do on vacation. So I personally prefer to stay in Airbnbs when I travel, specifically for the kitchen aspect. I really, really love making my own breakfast and taking control over that. And I like a little bit of added flexibility as well. So I recommend trying to eat roughly your mostly consistent breakfast, especially if you're doing a longer trip. If you're going somewhere for like a day or two, it's probably overkill. But if you are staying a little bit longer, it just gives you that added flexibility. And then I always recommend trying to opt for higher protein options for lunch. And then I instruct my clients to be pretty flexible with dinner and do pretty much whatever they want. However, I give them the context of, hey, the goal isn't to eat until you hate yourself. Like, eat to satiety, whatever will always be there. But I want you to enjoy yourself without thinking that I'm on vacation, I need to have 6 whiskeys and 3 desserts type of deal. So what is your approach there, Bryan?
No, totally. That's exactly how I handle it too. I actually usually do the intermittent fasting thing on vacation. So I will just straight up skip breakfast and have black coffee. And then I'll eat lunch, primarily protein, and then eat like a protein bar, mid-afternoon. And then at dinner, I kind of have just a big meal where I'll allow myself to eat some more stuff. But, if I've had 1,000 or 1,200 calories up to that point, then that's a lot of calories that I can have at dinner and still be under. One of the things that I wrote in the notes about my experience with food on this vacation and what contributed to me losing weight is that the food really wasn't that great. It was a all-inclusive resort. And so it was like very mass produced. I mean, they did have these like specialized restaurants where you could go to like the Mexican restaurant or the steakhouse or like whatever and get like what I guess was more freshly cooked food. But these like food halls that you would go to, they really reminded me of like, JMU, the cafeteria where at college. Like it really was just like you walk up and there's so many options, but some of them have been sitting there for like 30 minutes and they look congealed. And then other ones are like, they're just, I don't know. It's just not my scene. Like I would much rather, like you said, be somewhere where I have a little kitchen or kitchenette and I can kind of cook my own food for the most part, and go out to eat somewhere that I want to eat instead of kind of being relegated to eat at these places that are part of this all-inclusive community.
I have never, one time was I at like an all inclusive, and I definitely do not prefer it for one, like that simple thing. Like I want to go out and eat, like choose a local restaurant. Cause it's, when you think about things like an all inclusive from like a business model standpoint, right? They have to make decisions obviously to be profitable and offer flexibility and stuff, as opposed to like, hey, we're going to find the local, like, ceviche place. Let's just continue the context of Mexico because it's, we're both familiar, and it's I mean, obviously our demographic of the listenership is overwhelmingly American. It's a popular vacation destination. The quality and flexibility you get, and just the enjoyment of the experience of dining, I think is just astronomically higher with that sort of approach. But it's one of those things like I think one of the options or reasons you guys took that all-inclusive was like there was like childcare or something like that, or it was an easy decision with the children, correct?
Yeah, there was supposed to be childcare. It just it didn't quite work out. Like Vivi wasn't having it, and my son did it 2 days. And there was this upsell thing that you could do called the family area or something. And if you sign up for family area, it's like, an extra $2,000, but you get 24/7 kid coverage and you have access to all these like special kid friendly activities and stuff like that. And we didn't know about this until we arrived, and they're like, oh, why didn't you register for the family area? And we're like, oh, can we do that now? And they're like, oh no, maybe next time though, So it was like one of those things. We were like, like, of course,
Yeah.
So no, unfortunately. But yeah, I think, with the kids, it is a little bit easier. Mexico's certainly not unsafe, like by any means, but it's just easier to contain them in like a place that is all inclusive. The food though was just really the worst. Like the food itself would be a reason for me not to go back to a place like that. And then you look at like when you talk about the business decisions of, the type of food you choose and stuff like that, they also have to account for the fact that every time I walked by other people, there were plates and plates and plates of food just being thrown out. Like, people are getting up from their table to leave, and there's like plates of food still full, just sitting there that no one's ever going to eat now. And that was just kind of like the moment where I was like, of course,
Yeah, I think I mean, I'm speaking from like purely conjecture, but I could only imagine it's a hard business model because you have to account for like not what I'm going to call like turnover, but like waste and that sort of thing. So when you approach that from like a vacationer standpoint, it's just another consideration. And like with so many things, right? You make a decision. It might not be the best, it might not be the worst, but you gain an experience that will then influence your further decision. And that comes with like vacation as well. I do a lot of traveling just for like my lifestyle, so I've been able to like kind of figure out this kind of formula that we talked about on today's podcast, and obviously a lot of trial and error with my various clientele and their trips and stuff, and just kind of focusing on like these sorts of like pillars, I guess I could say, that will lead to you, one, not being concerned or neurotic around is my weight going to be up when I get back, or these sorts of things, and two, help you in like, this is my entire goal and aim as a business and a nutrition coach, to slowly and over time move you along this trajectory of a more health-focused lifestyle. And that includes vacation, right? I want vacation to be something to, one, reduce stressors on your life, but add value to your healthy life, not fuck, I'm miserable in my day-to-day life, so I'm going to go on vacation and just treat my body like a dumpster fire to mentally check out for 4 days before I have to return type of deal. So that is like kind of the big picture. And I guess the last thing that I will speak around on it is, if you approach vacation as part of your healthy lifestyle and not a detour from it, you will not have to worry about these sorts of things when you come back.
Yeah, I think the best part about taking this approach on vacation is that then you come back from vacation and you actually feel good. You're like, oh, that was great. Like, that vacation was rejuvenating for me, unless you have kids. But then, you're in the shitstorm anyway. But if you can at least control, what you can control, then you can come back and feel a lot better and have more positive perspective moving forward as well.
I love that. Yeah. So coming back, feeling great, ready to like reintegrate, as opposed to like coming back where you kind of dug yourself a little bit deeper and now you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's Monday, it's Tuesday.
Got to dig myself out. Yeah.
I'm hungover as all hell. I feel like dog shit from eating whatever, incredibly flexible foods the entire time. And now I'm got to jump back into real life. So that was a really good point to close on. Anything else you want to add to this episode, Bryan, before we wrap it up?
We're good.
Cool. I really like this. It was a different type of conversation, but something that all people will experience, right? Everyone takes vacation. I'm sure the listenership that we have is obviously overwhelmingly dominant on the lifestyle and concerned with, I don't want to say concerned with their weight, but with well-being, and I'm sure just for some people weight. And I think just by following some of these approaches and shifting your mindset on it can really help just empower you to shift how you view and participate in your vacations, hopefully.
Love that.
Cool. As always, everyone, thank you for listening. Bryan and I will talk to you next week.